So, currently, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing Vermont and Vermonters?
Hmm. Right now, I think it's COVID-19. If you would have asked me this question probably 6 months ago, I would have said it might have been affordable housing and climate change. Affordable housing, I think for sure here in Essex is an issue. Um, it's very difficult to kind of find a place that's going to be affordable for a median family income here in Essex, especially if you're looking to buy a home. The rental market's not great. Um, Climate change is a massively serious issue that has been put on the back burner for so long that we're basically out of time to deal with it. But now we find ourselves in a situation where we have something somehow even more pressing to deal with, and that's a pandemic. And I think that is probably the most pressing issue, is how we're going to get through the other side of this pandemic intact, whole is a good way of putting it. Um, the initial instinct I think is to start cutting funds in places. Um, the furlough of workers for sure, until the pandemic dies down a bit. But every time that happens, you're worrying about whether or not you're going to be able to rehire that person on the other side, when everything starts to reopen up again, whether or not the business that's furloughing you is actually going to be in place on the other side of the pandemic. And I think that we're going to find that a lot of locations simply aren't, or they're going to come back and they're going to struggle, because the bill payments have sort of continued to pile up, and there's been no real formal mechanism in place for putting on hold the biggest burdens for both businesses and people, which is rental properties, mortgages. Um, it's one thing to avoid eviction, but you know uh, it's another to then have to pay back 4 months worth of mortgages if your business hasn't been open at all during the time that this has been happening. From a larger systems level, we're definitely seeing around the state, schools that didn't pass their budgets before are having a really difficult time passing them now. Um, but if anything, it's going to cost more to give our kids the same educational opportunities that they were used to, not less. So for those schools that still have outstanding budgets that can't pass them, thankfully Essex was not one of them. But for those that are still kind of searching for that, the communities that they're in are looking for cuts, and cuts mean job loss. Job loss means you're either removing that person from the community because they're going elsewhere to find a job, or they're not able to pay the taxes, the rent on the situation that they have in front of them. Um, so that's, I think, figuring out, again, spoke to it, figure out the short-term solution to get us through, and then start figuring out the longer-term solutions later on. And that's kind of what's in store for Vermonters for the next 6 months to a year. Um, and, that's speaking very, very generally. But that's it overall.